end of demo. We are the Globo Gym Purple Cobras. And we will rock you.
And here come the Globo Gym Purple Cobras, led by White Goodman, all business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. I am currently going to be your only host here for the intro, and it is just going to be intro. I am currently on the road traveling, wasn't able to line this up with the fellas, but we have a fantastic interview coming up that Max and I do with Spencer Berman. Great chat there. Hopefully you guys really enjoy that, but before we get into that, just want to cover a couple things. Of course, this will be brought to you by Thorn Brothers. If you haven't been there, go check it out. They got an online website as well. And of course, we had them on last week. If you guys are looking to get on to next gen muskies, Doug Wagner's got that going on, and you want a little discount code, it is MOT10, MOT10 for 10% off there. Get you guys a little head start. So, other than that, a couple days after this comes out, good luck to those getting out on Game Fish opener for Wisconsin. And it's going to be a little bit chilly, it looks like, but I think we're just going to dial up that interview coming up. So hopefully you guys enjoy our chat with Spencer. All right, everybody. Here on the line, we got Spencer Berman with Spencer's Angling Adventures, you said? Or did I get that
Yep.
wrong already? Yes. Okay. Awesome. And yeah, we got you on here tonight. So how are you doing right now?
Oh, great, great. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I know, awesome. I know just before we started recording here, I was kind of chatting, you're on the walleye grind. Last week we just had Doug Wagner on. He's the same thing. He's been going, daily and doubles. You said you've been doing that. How has that bite been?
Yeah, so the walleye Detroit's is a riot. I mean, we have an unbelievable fishery, just tons of fish, and no, it's been really good. I mean, this year's been a little bit goofy weather-wise, but I feel like every year's got its own challenges from the weather standpoint. But overall, it's been really, really good, and bite's been really strong, and just catching away, and got a couple more weeks of that before we switch over to muskies in June.
Yeah,
Right
right
on.
on. Spencer, I'm sure most of our listeners know a lot about you, but I honestly don't know this. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up just south of Detroit.
Okay,
Yeah, so
gotcha.
like Detroit, St. Clair, Detroit River and Lake St. Clair would be kind of my what I consider my home waters. I grew up fishing a lot around Detroit River specifically, and then a little bit on Lake Erie, and then obviously Lake St. Clair. So like that was always close to me. I also spent a lot of time in Indiana as well. That was a short hop for me, and at the time that was where I kind of fell in love with the casting for muskies thing because St. Clair at the time was kind of a trolling fishery. That was part of the reason why I was kind of drawn to Detroit River because that was more of a casting thing, and same with Indiana as well. So, but yeah, this would be kind of home for me. And then I obviously gypsied around early in my career, going all over the places. So many of us muskie guides do.
I
Mm-hmm.
was gonna say I could have sworn I think I stumbled across an old Keys Outdoors video a while back, and I think you were I don't know if you were guiding on Minnetonka around the Twin Cities at the time, but I think I mean this with all due respect. I think you couldn't have looked more than 18 years old when you were lugging
Yeah.
those guys around. So,
Yeah,
um,
I think you're pretty close. I was probably about 20 at that when we filmed that one. But yeah, so I did like when I first started in the industry, that was when Minnesota was the is all be all. So I tried to do something on St. Clair. It went very poorly as far as bookings go. The fishing was phenomenal. But everyone wanted to go to Minnesota. I mean, that was the Mille Lacs was was pumping out 50 incher every 10th cast kind of thing, and that was kind of it just had started to peter out on Mille Lacs when I kind of started. So, but Minnesota was the name of the game. So, and if you wanted customers, that's where you had to go. So I ended up going there after a kind of a botched attempt on Claire first, and then luckily for me, I kind of gained a little bit of credibility through the tournaments and through writing and shows. And was able to kind of get enough people then that were, through a couple of years in Minnesota that were looking to fish with Spencer and less looking to fish a specific area and was able to kind of move back home on St. Clair. So
Gotcha.
that was kind of how things evolved for me.
Yeah, we'll certainly get into the tournament fishing tonight, but and this question's a little self-serving. So I'm living in Minneapolis right now, and get around here quite a bit. So it sounded like you were guided on Mille Lacs, but I think during that video you had mentioned you were also guiding Minnetonka at the time.
Yep.
What was that like back in the day? I'm sure you probably haven't been over here recently, but could you kind of just shed some light on what metro fishing was like back when you were guiding it?
Yeah, so like I actually did not do Mille Lacs, just to clarify.
Okay,
that was what was kind of bringing everybody to the state, so to speak.
gotcha.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but Mille Lacs was very overdone by then, and it was starting to peter out kind of when I was first starting when I was young. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I wanted to do metro stuff. I had a couple buddies that fished that were in the metro area, and it just seemed like it was somewhere that there was a little niche that I could kind of carve out. Specifically on Minnetonka, I really liked the lake, and I knew it was close to everybody, so it was easy to kind of set up shop. But yeah, the fisheries obviously changed a ton. I haven't been there in a long, long time. But I've heard it. I heard I really wouldn't even recognize it honestly because I don't think I probably fished it for. Ooh, probably my last time I was there would probably been 2012. So
Wow.
yeah, so like I know that the water's a lot clearer right now than it was when I was there. I mean, the fishing was a lot different, but overall, I mean, there's tons of nice fish in it. It was all just like there is now. It was always a really good blade bite. That was when the supermodels were just coming out, and those were absolutely killer. I assume they're still good there now. But yeah, so we did a lot of night fishing in the summertime, and then a lot of blade fishing throughout, and it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of nice fish in there, and I think there still is. It seems like.
Yeah, for sure. Where were you like staying and stuff? I mean, that's kind of a pretty big, I don't know, it's an interesting place to go to like become a guide. You typically,
Yeah.
like you were saying, I just had assumed you were on the Mille Lacs stuff and you're like, no, I'm gonna try something a little different. But moving to like Minneapolis to become a muskie guide is it's yeah, it's interesting, it's intriguing.
Yeah, so I was actually living like by Black Lake there in Spring Park. I got an apartment there that I keep my boat at, and
Convenient.
yeah, yeah. But then I mean, I was also running all over the state, typical. We were doing a little bit on Vermilion, and then up on the St. Louis River a lot too. That was kind of blown up, and that was a really really fun bite up there. I loved it up there. But yeah, pretty much just popping between those three. Kind of wherever. If I had guys that were from the Twin Cities, which I was about a third to half of my clientele, then I was staying there. If I had guys that were either from, when I was guiding in Indiana or just guys that wanted to fish with me, then I would probably take them somewhere. Unless the bite in the metro was really good, I'd take them either, up north somewhere, like I said, St. Louis or Vermilion or wherever. So,
So I got a couple questions here. One, what is like the time frame on this? If you said you'd stop fishing Tonka by like 2012, what's the time frame on this Minnesota guiding?
like, so I mean, I was
Or-
only there I did basically 2 summers out there. I was doing the spring stuff in Indiana. And then I would be there through all the summer and then kind of work my way back. Trying to do a little St. Clair in the fall. And then I kind of transitioned, kind of as most guides do, where I went from full time there to part time and then just kind of cut it back as I was doing and kind of basically book the calendar, and then whatever the bookings would meet, that's when I would move. So
Yeah.
very, very challenging way to live, but it's just the way that it works. And then, by 2011, 12, 13, I was doing more and more Claire. By 13, I was strictly on St. Clair for the musky stuff. And then I was still doing the walleye or the I'm sorry, the Indiana stuff in the spring for muskies there before the season would open. And then 2013, 14, I transitioned doing the walleye in the spring instead and got rid of Indiana. So it's been a kind of a moving thing. But now for the last 12, 13 years now, I've been doing just strictly Lake St. Clair and Detroit River doing the multi-species stuff. So the walleye in the spring and then muskies throughout the summer and fall.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, that kind of brings me, you brought up a place we've never been to and I've heard be brought up, but it always kind of it goes with the old days of Minnesota type deal. The PMTT went there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but the St. Louis River. What kind of gravitated you there? Was it the tournament by chance that go there, or do you have some buddies, or like how was that bite going on? Was it stocked? Like I don't really know much about it, and I just know it's
Yeah,
tough now.
no, so it was that was kind of happenstance. So my college roommate, my freshman year of college, he was from Superior, and he fished out there. So I went up and fished with him a little bit and realized that there was just an absolutely absurd amount of muskies in there, and there was nobody fishing them. It was unbelievable how
That's
many
a
fish
good
were.
circumstance.
Yeah, and I mean they're all it was stock Leech Lake strain fish for the most part. There was natural Wisconsin fish in the river that were procreating, but they were stocking leechers in there. I think they still are now. And it was an unbelievable bite. I mean, really, really good. And you were starting to see some more like Keys did a couple shows out there too. But yeah, so that's what kind of turned me onto it, just kind of luck of the draw. So I went up there and I think the first year I went up there, I mean, we were like in probably 25 days or so up there. I think we were averaging over 3 fish a day, and a lot of big. I mean, it's Leaf Lake strain fish, so like you were getting plenty of big fish as well. It didn't seem like they grew quite as big as some of the other places in Minnesota, but a lot of 50 inchers up to 52, 53. You didn't seem to have the mid to high 50s that like Vermilion and Mille Lacs could kick out at times, but just a ton of fish, and they were very, very agreeable, very under pressured, and it was a lot of fun. So, and when the PMTT came out there, I mean, I don't know if it's ever happened since, but it was at the time it was the only tournament ever in PMTT history where you had more fish caught than you had number of teams. And
Whoa.
and at the time,
Yeah.
yeah, my partner and I became the first team in PMTT history to catch 6 fish in a tournament and not win. We took second. Which since that has been done multiple times since then. But at the time that we were the first one.
What
So
did the winning team catch? Seven, or did
six,
they just
six. No, they
six?
got
Oh,
six or
okay.
bigger. Yeah, they beat us by a couple points, so it was pretty frustrating. But
So
yeah,
when like when they were fishing that at the PMTT and just in general too, and you guys were doing that, and hopefully we're not blowing up anyone's spot here, but like I'm just more so curious. I've driven through Duluth countless times. I've never fished it.
yeah,
I mean, are you like fishing it to the point where you're, looking at the Duluth backdrop, or is it like,
yeah.
okay, so you're right
You
there,
can
like when
go
you,
up. You can go up, but like I fish mostly in the harbor. I mean, that's just was my personal choice. It seemed like there was more big fish there, with like more of the access to the lake. But like we were in the harbor primarily. So
okay, do you ever bounce out to Superior at all and try any of
I
that stuff?
did some. I don't think I ever caught a fish in Superior. I know they go in and out, and some of the tracking stuff has shown they go in and out more, but I mean, they become pretty hard to pin down once they leave.
Right. Yeah,
Once
a
they
lot of
get through
water.
those, yeah, once they get through those channels and get out into the big water, I kind of realized that was probably a lost cause, and we did not spend a lot of time out there. So,
Yeah,
and
that
it was so cold too. Like as soon as you leave and you get out to like open to Superior, that water temperature drops an absurd
right,
amount, and like it doesn't do anything good for muskies' activity and feeding and all the rest of that.
right, right. No, that
Yeah,
makes a
if
lot of
it's
sense.
yeah, if the river's, a little dark water and 75 degrees, I don't think you want to go out to Superior and it's 62 and you're not
Exactly.
finding weeds or
That's
whatever's
what it
out
was.
there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, deep. No, that's cool. So you brought up the PMTT. We might as well just get into it and take the lid off of the tournament stuff. So obviously, um, let's maybe start at the beginning. So you kind of mentioned early, when you were like an early on guide, you were, had that kind of a slower start, and then you mentioned that the tournament stuff kind of helped you get some traction. what made you want to start fishing tournaments? How did you even get involved? Was there a buddy of yours that you started with it, or how, like what? Talk us through how that first tournament kind of came together.
Yeah, so I mean, I was very into fishing. Obviously, at the time, I did the traditional thing. Like my dad wasn't a fisherman, so I grew up pond fishing with my grandpa, and just kind of evolved from there. I started out doing bass tournaments. I did junior BASS as a child, like as a teenager, and kind of fell in love with muskie fishing. I was doing more and more muskie fishing throughout. Um, from being around this area on the Detroit River and whatnot, and yeah, I had a buddy that recommended the PMTT to me. I was kind of bored of doing the bass stuff. I was, I wanted to do something a little bit bigger and better. And when you're under 18, you can't fish anything other than junior bass. So that was getting kind of frustrating for me. And I called Tim Woodlackey, the owner of the PMTT, and I said I was 17, I had a boat, and I wanted to do one of his tournaments. And I know that the BSS won't let me fish anything until I turn 18. And he said that as long as my check cleared, he didn't give a crap how old I was. So, so I
How's
said,
that not
perfect.
surprising?
Not surprising at all.
Yep. So the first one I did was at the Fox chain, which was the first one of that year. Um, I think we caught a fish in about 20 minutes. It was pure and unadulterated luck. Like looking back, I just cringed at everything we did. But we caught a fish. We placed in the top 10. The bite was terrible, obviously. We got one like 30 and a half incher and we finished, I think, ninth or 10th.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, it was
Yikes.
everything was flooded and it was bad.
What time of the year was this? Was it before cave or did they not go like
Oh, that was the early one that year.
they
Okay.
just went to cave later in the year?
No, I don't think there was cave that year.
Oh,
Oh wow.
interesting.
So that was April we did that one.
And who was your partner? Who did you convince to fish this thing with you?
Just a guy I met through fishing.
Okay,
So
was he a musky guy
yeah,
or?
he was a musky guy for sure. Yeah.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
He'd done some PMTTs before. So
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. So he at least kind of knew like the system and how to, just go through the whole song
Yep.
and dance. Because that is kind of one like underrated element of fishing tournaments. If you never do them and then you step into one, and all of a sudden you catch a fish, you're kind of like, all right, what do I do with my hand? Like, what do we do now? You
Yep.
know?
100%. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was something. So we did, yeah, we got a fish there, and then we went to Cave Run, or no, sorry, Eagle River was next. We didn't get a fish there. Then the third one was Cass, and we cashed a check at Cass. And that was my first season. And then we didn't get another fish after that. But so it was a good learning experience, a good year, and then like I said, started meeting more and more people. Started working with Sarek from Muskie Hunter, doing some stuff there, and Keys and them were doing so. I think actually the following year was on Detroit River, if I'm not mistaken. There might have been a year in between. I can't remember, but that was where I met Keys because they were trying to pimp me for river advice, and I said, well, I'll help you out on the river, but you got to come film a show with me. And then so that's how that kind of all started.
Smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
So when did you break through then for tournament fishing? When did you get that first win? And when did you kind of was it that first year and then you started just after that fishing the PMTT pretty regularly?
Yeah, so I fished the PMTT for probably 4 or 5 years, 6 years or so, and then it did get to the point though where like the guide season was getting busier and busier because like obviously as a guide, it's super easy to justify like fishing something like a PMTT when you're not fully booked. If your overall demand, let's say, is roughly 20 days a month, then you can take the 5 days off to do a tournament here and there, and you don't feel like you're missing out on any lost revenue. Um, but I got to that point where like I could be booked every day, so now all of a sudden you have to look at it through a different kind of lens where you're walking away from the guide fees every day. It got harder and harder to justify. So I think I didn't do it in 2012, and then 2013 the championship was on Clair. So it was like, okay, I have to do, and I wasn't going to take the chance of not making it to Claire. So I'm like, I'm gonna do the whole thing. And that was the year we took team of the year and we set the points record, and It was an unbelievable roller coaster, just a crazy year for us on the trail. But then ever since then, I pretty much just whenever I like the tournament schedule, I'll jump on, and then other than that, I just do some like couple big local tournaments are here, so and not the
Well, remind me. So I have two questions off that. Remind me, I do have a second one because the first question I think is going to give us a pretty long answer. But so you just kind of you generalize. You said, all right, we won team of the year. We set the points record. I'm assuming you guys won on Clair that year. Sorry if you did, but let's maybe just talk as like what happened that year. So,
So I mean, it was a great year. So we started out. It was Cave Run. Nothing against Cave Run. I just hate that place. I'm not a reservoir fisherman. I just am not. It's not my strong suit. I mean, I grew up fishing open water, deep water stuff. So I go to the flats and because that's weeds and I understand weeds. I don't understand trees. At least not when it comes to muskie. They all look like they should have a largemouth bass under them, not a muskie. Um, but yeah, we got one there, and I think we ended up in like 12th or 13th for it. And now we didn't get a check, but we got points, and that was the whole thing. It's like, all right, we know that we're in. No, we know that we're in for the championship, basically. Because
right.
we made a top 15, so as a trail team, you're in. The next one was at Eagle River. Eagle River, I've always liked that fishery. It seems to play decently to the way I like to fish. We doubled on day one. We were in the lead. And then Jared Adamovich, a local there, ended up coming.
With Barber, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Jimmy Barber.
yeah.
Yeah, I've
Shout
heard this
out.
story before.
Yeah, that was I still don't I still am angry at the fishery for that one because I don't really know what happened, and maybe the locals can tell me, but the first day we were on catfish. Um And the first day, like half the fish came out of the bigger lakes, quote unquote, catfish, cranberry, and eagle or whatever, and half of them came out of little lakes. And that was we were on catfish. I think Adamovich and them were all like on lynx or one of the other smaller ones. The second day, the big lakes produced zero fish. I think one fish got caught out of catfish, period. And all the little lakes that, in my opinion, I would assume would have absorbed the pressure worse and would have been more affected by the tournament, kicked out a crap ton of fish. And it's all connected. I have no idea why half the system shut down on us, but I'm still a little bitter about it. Um,
Welcome to the Eagle River chain. It's a special, special place. We've been fishing it since '07, and I mean I've been fishing Monday Night Muskie League, which is on the
oh,
chain mainly, and
but
some other bodies of water. And every Monday night, when people catch fish, you see what lake it's from on
yeah,
the chain. It's straight up light switch on off. All of a sudden there's like five from catfish, none from the small lakes, and all of a sudden maybe somebody comes in with a 30 and a quarter from cranberry, and then like yellow birch, duck, and otter, people are just pounding them. It could be an absolute light switch, and Max and I have seen that too out there numerous times. It's uh it's odd. It's odd that I mean, I don't know. The small lakes really stump me in the fact that they are the easiest to fish because they're very, very basic weed lines and whatnot. There's not that much complexity to it. So when they do get fished hard, you'd think they get overpressured, but then if they're going, they're going.
Yeah.
You can stick all the boats are in the little cereal bowl of duck, and they'll just keep going and going and going
yeah.
because
That
it's
was back
more.
when we still had judge boats, and they had they would you'd fill out the little sheet that the judge would give you. Well, like the judge boat on I don't know if it was duck or lynx or one of them. They apparently ran out of sheets to give to people because there were so many doggone fish caught. And they're literally the judge on catfish never moved all day. Like he took a nap. So yeah, anyway.
Gosh.
So that was
Yeah.
the second day. So we dropped to second. So great, I mean still a great tournament, and I'll take that, especially as a non-local. Um so and then the next one was on Madison. Um which we skunked on day one and then came up with a kind of a crazy bite on day two and ended up getting doubling up on day two and slid into fourth. And then on the last one was on St. Clair. We caught big fish for the tournament and then got another one. It was American only. It was very tough, but we ended up taking second in that one. So We went like I think it was 14th, second, second, fourth, for the year. So, and that was good enough for team of the year, obviously. So,
Right. Oh yeah. That's
Pretty good.
awesome. So with the I actually had a discussion. I was with Barber not too long ago, and we kind of talked about that year and whatnot. And he went to Claire. I think it was his first time maybe there. I don't know, but he's saying yeah, you fish only the American side. And I looked at the map because I didn't really know it super well, and I kind of saw the line or whatever. And he was, and, the light bulb hit him and Jared throughout pre-fishing on that clarity thing, that you've heard about a billion times. People have talked about, the clarity moving throughout that system. And because he was laughing, it's like we're over here and we're barely seeing anything because it's way too dirty. And then over here we're hearing about people raising like 25 fish, but they got zero to bite. But then he's like, here's where we caught them. But then it shifted throughout the
yep.
tournaments, and I thought that was kind of interesting because I know he's kind of more orientated to finding that good clarity. Because there's some people who are like, I want to find the cleanest water ever because that's where I have confidence, and some people are like, I want to go where I don't even want to see my bait until it's up into the figure eight, um, which you can get them to bite in that too, and just like clear water. But um, I thought that was interesting when it was on American side only, and that's a big lake. Did it still feel like you guys were cluttered out there, even with the championship amount of boats, or did it spread out pretty good?
No, there was like basically one specific area. There was a spot that we were talking about where it was too clear, but there were so many fish, it was mind blowing. It was a bit of a cluster, for sure. And like American only made it so tough, and it was terrible conditions for America. I mean, we had just gin clear water. We hadn't had any sort of wind in days that would have given any sort of clarity to it. So like I mean it was a horrible showing for St. Clair. I mean there was I don't remember how many fish were caught, but it wasn't a lot. I mean we took big fish for the tournament with a 48 incher. Which that should never be the case. But I mean if you take away, the American side is not the Canadian side. There's no doubt about that on Clair. So and then on top of it, it was a weird time of year. It was early October, which is always kind of transitional for us. Bad conditions, and overall it fished tough. Like you knew it wasn't going to be the St. Clair that people hear about and know. And everyone thought it was going to take 10 fish to win. I told people I didn't know if there'd be 10 fish in the top five teams.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez, and we know it's like I don't know what all the nicknames of Claire are other than like Ocean of Muskies or something like that because it's all blue and they're everywhere. But Max, you got something?
I just remembered my second question. I didn't want to get too far
Oh
before I
yeah,
totally forgot it.
go for it.
Okay, so you mentioned that if the PMTT trail came out with a schedule that would pique your interest, you'd consider jumping back in. So Gus and I made the decision this year to not fish Cave Run, and even so, like we like fishing that type of stuff. I mean, we don't mind fishing, laydowns, trees, whatever, dirty water. But for us, like it just the last couple years, and we've done good down there, but like it's still a grind no matter how you look at it. Like, you're going down there for 3 to 5 days and you're just not going to be, really hammering them. And for us, it just was kind of a trade-off of like, well, we'd rather do a different trip during the summer than go do that. So like, what would be some stops that the trail could do that would get you interested in fishing it again?
Okay, so I'm always like, if it was up to me, I would never miss a PMTT. I love tournament fishing. So like,
Same. We do too.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I love tournament fishing. So like if it wasn't for the money, like the money that I'm losing and walking away from guiding and how that's how I pay my bills and whatnot, then I would fish everyone. But for me now, it really comes down to the fact that I need it on. I really wanted to be on St. Clair. And for a while there, Woodlackey was doing like basically every 5 years. They did '08 in Detroit or '09 or something like that, then 13 in the championship, then 18. And now since 18, we haven't been back. I bugged him every year, like literally. He'll tell you I'm annoying. In sometime like around the beginning of November, I always am texting him like, "Are you coming? Is it going to happen? Is it a year?" And I just keep getting the nose right now. So there's a chance that if somewhere else came out that I maybe would consider doing it, depending on who I'd fish it with and what their home waters were and things like that. But unfortunately, I mean, cave run is not my favorite. I'm just not really. I've never been a reservoir fisherman. Not that, I've got anything against them. It's just not the way that I've grown up fishing. It's not something I'm as comfortable with. So it's not, it's not my favorite. So given the fact that Cave Run seems like it's on there every year, that's already kind of one that doesn't get me excited, so to speak. And then obviously you've got Eagle River, which I like the Eagle River chain, and I've caught a lot of fish there. But I mean, let's be honest here, the amount of times that the money at the Eagle River tournament leaves about a 45-minute area is very rare. It seems like if you don't live up there, you can't win that one. So that's a little bit, less appealing. So like it basically just comes down to where the other two are, for me. And like if it's somewhere that I feel like I, would feel confident in doing. So
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're kind of limited with the amount of options they could do unless they shifted dates or something, but that the one in April, if you're saying, okay, you got to do a tournament mid-April, I mean, where do you really go? I mean, I'm sure there's options, but
there's a lot of there's plenty of
you think
options, but
so?
I mean, I'm biased. I would say that, I would say that Tim's hunting schedule shouldn't have anything to do with where we have a professional muskie trail event. So, I mean, I would say that if maybe obviously Cave Run is the most logical answer in the South, because there's just most of most of the places are too small. They don't have the infrastructure to handle it. But at least from time to time, we could have our first tournament in May, and then have one maybe in October again, and spread it out that way. Or
May would open up the door to a lot of different
a lot
places.
of different spots, correct. I mean, even you could do June, August, September, October. You could do one in the fall even. I mean, that would be cool. I mean, get to see some
Yeah,
caddies get caught, and that would have, a lot of cool spots you could go. But
for sure.
tournament trail doesn't have to be over by the end of September. That's just a fictitious made up thing that like we think that it
Right.
needs to be done by then. But
Right.
I mean, but it does stink that like I mean, there's not a lot of other reservoirs that have both the size and the infrastructure to handle the tournaments. So like that does stink. Like there's not a lot of them. So
Yeah. I mean, I
Because if
heard
they're out
there
in the
was,
boonies, it's not going to really work.
that's what I mean. I said size and infrastructure. So like those are
Yeah.
you
right.
can't do it if you don't have hotels and you don't have ramps and you don't have that. Like I mean, none of the Ohio lakes are big enough. None of the Indiana lakes are big enough to host a full field. I mean, Shelbyville, that would be another one that they have done in the past, but they have so many issues with losing fish over the top there. Kincaid's too small. They've done the Fox chain in the spring before, as I mentioned. Like that one's another one that could come up. But you can't go there too early because it is, fairly far north. Um,
Right.
but I don't know. Like I said, I just fish it from time to time. I don't run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't either. But we talk about these things a lot, and it's just always interesting to get other people's perspective on, just I guess just kind of shooting the shit on it. Keep it on the tournament track. Give us let's start out with the positive. What's the best tournament fish you've ever caught? It could be best story or just the one that maybe meant the most or like one that you felt the most I don't know, just the most joy after catching it.
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. So, like, I mean, most of our PMTT wins and most of my tournament wins, which a lot of them are obviously very Clair centric. Um, the tournaments that we've won have always been, you know, 6 to 12 fish to win them. So it's hard to pick out a specific one, that was, like that one pinnacle one. Um, Honestly, this last year, you're getting a little bit away from the PMTT, but sticking with tournaments. So
Yeah, that's fine.
I did a tournament. I've done it twice now, called the Muskie Brawl in November on St. Clair. It's a really cool event. It's run out of the Canadian side. I'm one of the few Americans that's done it. It's an individual tournament. It's total inches on 3 fish is how they score it. And it's 3 days long. So I did it this year for the second time. Um, So it's 185 people that do it. And after the first day, I was the only one with three fish, so I was in the lead. The second day, and the weather was god awful. It was November. Started out at 60 degrees on day one with 50-mile-an-hour winds out of the south, and then a front was rolling through. And by the third day, I think the high was like 34 or 5 with like snow sideways and rain and miserableness. So anyway, the second day, I had a couple guys pass me. I didn't get a fish. And then the third day we were out, it was horrible conditions. It was like snowing slash sleeting slash raining. Nothing was going. There was no fishing in the app. Because you can see kind of like Major League Fishing style where you can see what's getting caught and whatnot. Um, and we moved a bunch of fish in the morning. There'd been a pretty good bite. We went through that. I didn't get a fish, and it's like, oh crap, I'm gonna finish this thing in third or fourth where I'd sat. And with about 45 minutes to go, I marked a fish on SI, and I backed up the boat, kind of like kind of was thinking to myself like where because we where it was. I made the cast like right to where I thought that fish would have been from where I marked it. Pumped the bait like 4 times and felt the line jump. And it was under an hour left, and it was a 46 and change or something like that that boosted me into the lead, won the tournament. Just like that one pinnacle fish where I really thought it was all over. Like that, nothing was happening. There was only like 7 or 8 fish in for the whole tournament that day for 185 guys at that point. So it's like it's not happening with under an hour to go. It's snowing sideways and just miserable. And yeah, so like getting that one was really cool. That was like that one pinnacle fish that seemed like it was just you know, just an
It's-
unbelievable catch and put it and put me in first, which was cool. So
yeah, sealed the deal.
yeah.
So on that one, I'm kind of curious. Maybe do you think it was because like you had that app and you knew already after day one you're ahead, and then you fell behind after day two, so you knew that at the end of the day, but still throughout day three you could see that nothing was stacking and you had the chance. Whereas like when we've been doing the PMTT and now we just heard they went to the Fish Donkey app this year, so um, I haven't talked to anybody yet, but I'll be curious on like how that kind of worked down in Cave Run. But do you think that kind of added to it? Like you knew you're still in the hunt, like you saw it. You didn't look at the app and just be like, "Oh man, this guy's got three, giants. Like I'd have to upgrade all of my fish or something like that." You kind of knew you're just right there, so maybe that I don't know, that might help keep it. How did you like that, being able to see that?
Yeah, so like I've done a bunch of different tournaments that like that. This one is interesting in the sense that like you can see exactly where you are at all times, and you can see every fish that's caught in real time. Like you can set it to get updates, so like it does. And it was we were using the Fish Donkey app, so like it literally makes a donkey sound every time someone catches a fish.
Oh,
Uh,
Jesus.
I've heard that sound
yeah,
before.
yeah.
We are muting our
So
phones at Eagle River, Gus.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. So for a head case like me, it's a blessing and a curse because like it definitely causes you to every time it starts going off and you're like, okay, they're biting. So like I need to get one like right effing now because they are biting. Like obviously the window is open. I'm falling further and further behind every minute I don't catch one. But it's also, I mean, so that part is stressful, but it is cool because you know exactly where you stand, right? And like as soon as I caught that fish, we got in the net, like I knew that, short of a miracle, that was what I needed. Like there was only basically one or two other, there was two guys that could maybe pass me and they would have needed a really big one then. So it does give you that instant gratification that you don't get in a PMTT setting where you never know where you stand. And if you're like me, I mean, I always assume that there's so many hammers in that field. You always just assume that somebody did something astronomically amazing. And like, I mean, even the tournaments we've won, the PMTTs we've won, like I never came in confident. Like I always just assumed somebody did better. Like if we got this many, somebody had to get this many plus, right?
Right.
So like yeah, having the app is definitely it'll play games with your head a little bit, but it is cool in other in ways too. So
How are you like wired as a tournament angler? You said, you're kind of well, I don't, you said you're kind of a head case at times, or can be a head case. Are you just wired like really tight? Or are you always the wheels just kind of like the little hamster running at a million miles an hour? up there. Is that kind of a fair characterization on maybe?
Yeah, no, like I'm definitely the overthinker. Like I want all the information I can get. Like I'm the one that's like some people obviously would probably choose not to look at the app in this scenario. Like that's not me. Like I want to know when they're biting. Like I want to know where fish are getting caught, like what everybody's doing. And I want to kind of use that as much information as I can because that's just kind of how I function. Um, but yeah, no, I'm definitely I never go into a tournament confident. I'll never be the guy at the rules meeting that says he's killing them because I assume that if I've got a decent bite that everybody else does. Um, but I mean, it's part of the fun. It's the stress and the competition to it that makes it fun for me. And it's like that. It's that unbelievable rush, but yet it's the thrill of the competition and things. So like that is what makes it all worth doing. So.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And Max, you said you had a couple questions on it. I know you said you asked like your favorite moment or favorite catch. Were you gonna ask the opposite side of that at all, or are you not gonna go to that?
oh, you got to. I mean, it's only
Might as well.
fair.
Yeah. Is there one maybe that got away where it was close to maybe put you at a top spot, or I already see you nodding your head
Oh
yes,
yeah, I mean
so
there's been so many. I mean, obviously the tournaments are characterized by the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I think we all can agree with that. Um,
yes.
so I mean, I had one or two tournaments where like I had boat trouble and like it was just a debacle, like where stuff broke and this and that. It's like those were just bad circumstance, right? But I think the tournaments that probably stick with me the most. Um, like so the St. Louis River was actually probably one of the PMTTs that sticks with me the most. That was one of the few that I came in and I'm like I kind of told everybody like you better get 6 or 7 fish or you're not going to beat us. Like we were all over them. I mean, we were catching so many fish. Um, like I went to like one of my best spots. We kind of been avoiding trying to find other stuff and kind of avoiding all of our good stuff. And on Friday, I went just to kind of check stuff. We made 2 casts and caught a fish. Like it was just like that automatic, it seemed like. And we rolled into that tournament. And I think on day one, we caught three and lost 12, 11 or 12. It was all glide. We were throwing gliders. I mean, they were just we were throwing phantoms primarily, and they were just nipping and bad luck, bad jumps. I mean, just everything that could go wrong went wrong. And I mean, I think the next day we fished a little cleaner, but we still were like maybe 50%. And it was one of those where there's so few times in your career, no matter how good you are, um, where your pattern and your bite is that much better in the whole field that you can go 30% and still almost win. And like you gotta win those because those don't come around often. And like we were on such a good bite, the fact that we didn't win it, it just eats me up. Like if we had 6 bites and we caught or 7 bites and we caught 6 fish, like I wouldn't, we did the best we could. Like that was the bite. Somebody had a better one, but like we had the bite to win and we lost. And that's the one. Those are the ones that eat me up. So I've had quite a few of them in other tournament settings, but that was the one for the PMTT at least that just, it's like, man, if we'd done that tournament 10 times, we would have won at 9 with that bite. We just didn't execute. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Gus and I have built up some battle scars, even in our short couple years fishing the trail. It's part of it, and it does feel like sometimes the bad sticks with you, sometimes a little bit more than the good.
yep.
Right.
Uh, Unfortunately.
I I got a question for you, Spencer. Staying on the tournament game and maybe just some advice for people that are new to tournaments or looking to do tournaments this year. What's kind of your game plan or strategy going into one? Like the pre-fishing, a couple like side questions would be like, do you like to stick a bunch of fish and get onto a good pattern and know what they're eating, or do you want to not stick a lot and just kind of raise them and pull baits? Like, what's your kind of go-to on that? Because like we've had a lot of different
Yeah.
answers on this. Like there's a lot of opinions on this.
Oh, 100%. So like I'm one of the guys that like I don't want to go and beat up on a pattern, but like I want to catch fish. Like I really do. Part of it's because of like you got to remember my background. So like I grew up around St. Clair, so like we don't have individual fish. Like I mean I always joke that some of you northern guys, especially northern Wisconsin, I swear that half the time you guys got these
We
damn fish.
name them.
Yeah, you name them.
We
Like
name them.
you caught Bob underneath that swim platform over there, and then Bill lives by that dock. He likes purple buck hills. Like so I grew up here, and like I mean we and I've never been that guy. Like I don't normally do well on one cast spots. Like I like areas that like this weed bed is holding, let's say 40 to 60 fish. We move. I mean, I assume, and we moved 7 or 8 of them, and we got 1 or 2 bites from them. So like I'm not going to go and beat up on areas that I think, have fish, but like I'm perfectly fine catching fish in pre-fishing. All the tournaments that we tend to do well, like we feel like we're on them where you're getting bites. Like I'm not going to do a figure eight on a fish in pre-fishing unless it's 55 inches or something astronomical, which is just like we're catching anyway. But like, I mean,
Right.
so like, but if they bite, like I'm gonna catch them. I'm not taking hooks off or any. Like I hear people saying that. It's like I
That
always
seems a little much. I've heard that too.
that's it. Well, I think it's stupid because like I want to know what it is. Because like everywhere we fished, I mean, if you go to Cave Run, like how many largemouth bass have you caught down there? Like I've caught a bunch of 6 pounders, 7 pounders that you thought were muskies at first when they bit, and then you go up north and there's northerns everywhere.
Right.
So like what my partners and I like what we've always said when we pre-fish is like if I get a bite, I set the hook, I put my rod straight up in the air, and I try to get the fish up. And if it jumps off, that's perfect, but at least I just want to see it. So like if I fight it in a manner that like I want that fish to come up, and if it gets off, so be it, but I want to see it first so I know what it is.
Hmm.
So like that's
Interesting. I've
normally,
never heard that one before.
It's a cool
yep.
little nugget.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
just I want to know what it is, right? So like that's really all it is. I mean, I'm not trying to horse them out of the water, but I want to get them up where I can see the thing, make sure it's a muskie, get a general idea of the size, and so be it. But I mean, if I'm not gonna do figure eights, but like I do want to catch fish. I do a lot more nowadays with modern electronics and stuff. Like I do more driving in pre-fishing than I ever used to. I mean, that's definitely a lot of the game. But like we also, I mean, I want to put baits in, especially if you're fishing, weed bed areas and things like that where you need fish to come out of them to see what's in them.
Mhm.
You're not marking fish inside of a dense bed. So if we're doing an open water bite, then we probably would fish a lot less than a shallower, cover based bite. But yeah, like I definitely am not afraid to hook fish here and there in pre-fishing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so talking about getting bites or getting fish to come out of these weed beds. We've a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, have seen you on Keys Outdoors, and one thing that probably sticks out to a lot of people is how you work rubber baits. So I guess my question would be, what's a typical winter workout routine that you're putting yourself through to be able to work these rubber baits in the manner that you do? Um, and have you had back surgery in the last 5 years?
Well, so I mean, I'm 37, so like I'm not super old. So I got that in my ear. So back surgery is probably, or shoulder surgery is probably coming. But no, so I mean, obviously, my cadence, it gets talked about a lot. Like it never, it just kind of evolved. It didn't like I didn't necessarily start that way, but I did kind of mirror like my original fit. Like I was lucky enough to fish with Mark Lajewski when I was younger, and I've always been one of those guys where like I want to try to learn as much as I can from everybody. When you get a chance to fish with someone who's maybe one of the best, most accomplished rubber fishermen on the planet, you probably should watch what he's doing. So I watched him rip the bejesus out of bulldogs because Medusas didn't even exist at the time, and do like long hard sweeps and things, and rip the baits real hard. And it's like okay, well, that's what I'm gonna try to do. And that's kind of the way kind of it all evolved for me. And the way that the fish on St. Clair are very interesting in kind of how they hunt, what they want. I mean, they love that really hard, ripping, very aggressive retrieve for the majority of the time. So, for me, yes, I do spend a lot of time in the gym, both in the winter and as much during the season as I can. It started out just I grew up playing hockey and I always, did that, but then it actually became more of a, longevity thing. Just like I was starting to have some issues, not with the ripping, but with the repetitive motion, like in my late 20s, where my back and things were getting too lopsided because of
Yeah.
because you're pushing and pulling with opposite sides of your body when you're pulling or when you're casting and when you're ripping rubber. Um, and I was having issues because my one side of my back was bigger than the other, and my one shoulder was bigger than the other one. It was pulling my spine. I was having issues. So then I did a bunch of different stuff. I went to doctors. They wanted to do surgery. I went to, massage therapist, a chiropractor, you name it. They all want to do their own thing. None of it really worked. But I got back in the gym really hard and started, doing a lot of free weights, trying to balance everything back out. And it turned out that the more muscle I put on, the harder I could rip, the more fish I caught, and it fixed my back.
It
So
works out.
it worked out pretty well.
It's funny that you brought up hockey. I was actually going to ask you if you played other sport, any other sports growing up. Gus and I both played hockey growing up. I still play quite a bit to this day. And like, it sounds probably somewhat judgmental of me, but like, when I either fish with other people or watch in tournaments, like you can kind of tell, when people look athletic fishing rubber baits and when they don't, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And like one of the things watching you fish rubber baits on some of those Keys Outdoors episodes is it almost does look a little bit like a sport, like it's a I wouldn't say like I don't know if fluid motion is the right word, but it's a very unique motion, like how, certain pitchers throw a baseball or hockey guys take slap shots, golfers, everyone has their swing. But like I've noticed that some of the stuff I do in musky fishing is very similar to how either like I will stick hand, you know what I mean? I don't know if this is making any sense, but there's definitely some overlaps
Yeah, for
between the
sure.
two things. Um,
I
It's
agree.
like if you saw like a silhouette of Spencer, you'd be like, and Rip and Rubber, you'd be like, oh, that's Spencer, or I'd see a silhouette. I don't know who it is, but then I'd be like, oh, that's Max. So I see what you mean. Like everybody has their
Yeah,
style of
yeah,
that.
especially with rubber, especially with rubber.
yeah, yeah. Like everyone, bucktails are bucktail, but yeah, when you're throwing, I don't know what size Medusas you typically rip on St. Clair, but especially when you get into some of those bigger baits, you really gotta move them. What type of setup are you using to throw your typical larger size rubber baits?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been running the Muskie Innovations rods for since they, started back up again a couple years ago. So the 3X 9 foot Muskie Innovations rod is kind of my go-to excuse me, especially for the bigger stuff. I'll run the 2Xs at times, but normally it's the 3X MI rod. It's pretty much the heaviest rod that you're going to find out there. And I like for me, I really when I rip the baits, like I want those baits to jump. Like I don't want that rod. And I watch a lot of guys do this, and I think wrong, where they use really soft rods, and when they rip a bait, you watch that whole rod just flex and it absorbs so much of that energy you're trying to put into the bait. Like I don't want that to happen. When I rip that bait, I want that bait to jump in the water. And I want to get that quick stop start into that bait. And I don't want the rod taking away from that necessarily. So like that's why I really like that 3X rod. It's got tons of backbone. It really moves the bait well. Tons of hookup power, obviously, but it really is more about moving that bait through the water and getting that action that I'm looking for.
Hmm.
And then
Okay.
yeah, that's interesting. I assume some sort of high gear reel to go with it.
Yeah, normally beasts. I've been with Abu for a while now, so like the Abu beasts are pretty much my go-to at this point.
Okay. I've I've used like super because we don't normally rip giant rubber all the time up north, but I have used like a super extra heavy rod a long time ago, and what I found was a problem a couple times if a fish just hammered it way out in the cast, and I had that high gear reel, I'd feel handcuffed. Like I had the rod was not really flexing at all. I could like barely reel because it was such a high gear reel. You felt like stuck. Have you ever seen that happen with, or is that not really
Yeah, maybe
an issue?
I kind of see what you're saying. I don't normally do any of the like so like the higher speed beast is only 34 inches, so it's not one of the
Okay.
crazy fast ones. So we because we don't ever we're not going over anything. like you guys are, where you're trying to keep it up over stuff. So like I'm not a big fan of the 40, the crazy fast ones necessarily. But part of that too is because like I also am a very firm believer, like and this is kind of St. Clair specific a little bit, that like we need our baits to really fall and drop in between when you're ripping. You want that bait to fall down and then jump up, fall down and jump up. And when I get to the higher speed reels, I notice that like a lot of times I'll over reel because I'm a naturally fast reeler. And if I start going, if I do go too fast, like I get those baits just way too high and they don't drop the same way that I need them to. So like that's where I kind of like that mid-range reel speed that seems to be kind of a good median for me.
Have you messed around with longer rods at all? The 9 footer is interesting to me because I feel like so many of the guys, especially that fish big baits and big water, typically you're hearing them use that 9.6 to even up to 10.6 nowadays. We've heard
Yep.
people using up to 11-foot rods, in Minnesota this year. I've talked to a few guys.
Yeah, and I know it's very popular. I've tried them. I just the cadence that I use and the way that I like to rip, it's it's too much. I end up hitting. You just don't know where to go with it all. And I mean, I'm also not a super big guy, so I mean, I'm 5'11", so like if I guess if you're 6'8", like it makes probably a little bit more sense. And just because of the way that we're ripping, and also there's something to be said too for the weight of it all. When you have it, when you're trying to run a really heavy rod with a lot of backbone that doesn't have a lot of flex in it, and you're going to try to make a 10 foot 6 rod. I mean, it's going to be heavy. It's going to be hard to wield, and it's going to beat you up a little bit. Now, the nine, I mean, I've got one of the old Mark Lajewski 8.3 rods that like I keep in my boat all the time. I call it my whooping stick. Like not the greatest figure 8 rod, but I can beat the bejeeps out of a rubber bait with it. There's times, especially when it gets really flat and calm, where I'll pull that thing out because I can make those baits dance. And a lot of those flat calm days, they don't eat at figure eights anyway because they get really boat shy. And
Right.
it's kind of just taking the risk, just saying, okay, I'm just gonna, I think I can get bites this way, and if they come in a boat, like I'll do what I can do. So like the nines work really well for me, and that's kind of what I've always stuck with. I've tried the longer stuff. I've not, I've nothing against them. It's just not what I personally prefer.
No, I stand with you there, honestly, and maybe it's also because I'm not a tall guy. I'm about 5'9" or whatever, and I also fish out of a aluminum boat, so I'm a little bit closer to the water in general. And when we first started ripping rubber, we had some shorter rods. I think the first rod I ripped rubber with was a 7.6 Compre medium heavy.
There you go.
So ripping rubber was more like flex the crap out of it and maybe move it a little bit with that, round reel Abu, which is I think I looked it up. It was like a
Real.
4.9 to 1 gear
I
ratio.
remember the first time,
Pretty
Gus, not
hilarious.
not to cut you off, but I remember like one of the first falls we had started ripping bigger rubber, and I think at the time it was just like a normal size Medusa,
It was a mid,
mid
not even a
Medusa,
regular. It was a mid.
and his like full day of ripping a mid Medusa. Next thing I know, I just see Gus cast, and half the rod just flies up
I
with
did break
it.
the tip on, it wasn't that Compre, but I did break the tip on like an 8 foot. I think it was also a medium heavy, whatever it was. I think it
Yeah,
was a 13 fishing rod or something like that. It
come a
was
long way.
too funny.
I think I was
Shoot, where
seven.
was I going with the
It was
story?
7.9, my first one for rubber.
Yeah,
So,
Oh my
but
goodness.
you talk about it
Oh,
because like the
yeah.
the setups are so important, right? I mean,
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because or where I was going with this is actually, and I might get back to this year. Like I might nab one. One of my I went to the because I use St. Croix rods and I go to the Blue Ox as they call it. It's a 9 foot extra heavy, so the same length. Maybe it's not as heavy as the triple X of the Muskie Innovations, but I've really liked it for ripping rubber. But before that, I loved using the big dog rod, the 8.6 extra heavy, that little meat stick, and that you can pop it up, you can work it all day. It's not too much rod. It's not gonna like if you're gonna rip rubber all day, like that's actually kind of nice. Because
Yep.
I've used some 10 footers now, and as soon as they start getting later in the year and I do start sweeping baits and whatnot, I'll use it for rubber. But otherwise, I don't necessarily prefer. As soon as I go through a couple hours of ripping a 10 foot rod straight up, I'm like, man, I'm gassed. This ain't it, and you start pulling baits like way too far, like you end up overworking, especially if
Yep.
I'm throwing a smaller bait, you end up overworking it, which I think can be a problem. But keeping on this rubber game and the setups and whatnot. So, and we're talking about your cadence and whatnot. I mean, people are probably listening. They're hearing, you want it to go up and then you want it to fall a lot. How are you? I mean, I know it's a podcast. It's kind of hard. People won't be able to see, but like, how are you? I've seen you make like these. It's almost like a round motion, like you're
Yeah.
you're you're ripping the rod up and then like following it. I don't know if you've probably explained it many times. So
Yeah.
how about you maybe explain it? It'd be a lot better than me.
Yeah, it's like I definitely have like a round motion, but that was just it evolved. Like it wasn't like I tried to do this. Though the big thing though is that when I'm coming up around, like I'm actually not moving the bait. So like that's just when I pick up line. Like as I reel back down to the bait, I'm kind of coming up around on it where I bring it kind of down across my feet and then kind of back up. And then the big thing is like I'm coming. I bring the rod kind of up more like at eye level, and then when I actually go to engage it, I'm ripping into the bait. So like I normally start my rip with like a little bit of slack, so that way that bait really jumps out of the gate. Um, just like I just have like the first 2 or 3 inches or so of my pole is picking up slack line, kind of getting that bait to really jump. And we're talking about summer. Like obviously in the fall, once things slow down, that's a whole different game. But like summertime, that's really what it is for me. So it's all about trying to drop because and you can do the same thing just with a very linear motion where you just go back and forth. But for me, like when I'm dropping that rod tip back. As soon as I get done my pull, I'm dropping that rod tip back towards the bait to give that bait a true chance to free fall down and then ripping back into it again. So that way that bait's just, is jumping through the water and then dropping, jumping through the water and then dropping, and really gives you a good change of direction. It really triggers a lot of strikes specifically on St. Clair.
So that the and we keep bringing them up, but I'm just having all these kind of flashbacks and the one episode of Keys that I like keep thinking of and of how you talk about this cadence and how you're working them was the quad dog episode. And, the Quad Dog has had a tough run on the Muskies on Tap podcast. I would say, I think it actually got voted as one of the least favorite baits of the year, yada, yada. So I feel the need to bring you on
Sorry,
and
Quad
talk
Dog.
about, yeah, sorry,
Yep.
Quad Dog. But I feel that you got to give it some shine because clearly it works out on St. Clair very well and it seems like you've had some success. So what about that bait that's kind of interesting to you?
So, I mean, the quad dog has been like I've worked with Brad from day one with like trying to come up with that one. But I understand. I guess I'd be curious what when you guys were saying that it was like voted the least, the worst bait, whatever. But like, so like, I can tell you that like my clients in general, they hate it, and most of them won't even run it. So like, there's been so many times in my boat where like it's very very good for us for big fish, for sure. Like it is a big fish producer on Clair. It does not get as many bites, but it gets big bites. Um, and there's been countless times as we were prototyping it or after this came out where like I'll catch a fish on it and then I'll get another one or I'll get a big one. And it's like, all right, well, like that's 2 or 3 fish. Like, you guys want to try it? And they always, same thing as always, oh yeah, sure, I'll throw it for a second. They throw it and they're like, oh, I'm bald. Like the bait must have balled up. Like, nope, nope, you're not bald. That's just how hard it pulls. And then after 3 casts, they're like, you know what? It's not worth it. Like I'm gonna
I'm
go back
good.
to my mag dog or my Medusa. Like I don't care how many fish you caught on it. I'm not throwing this doggone thing.
I think for us, the feedback's going to be pretty useless. I think for you because one main reason with that is so I want to preface this by saying the more I've looked at the quad dog that is sitting in our cabin, the more I'm like I need to throw this because it's grown on me a lot aesthetically. But I think what happened to us was we had a couple too many cocktails one night while we were recording the podcast, and
At
we were
Max's
just
apartment in Minneapolis, I remember the specific night.
and I think our other co-host who's not on here just started kind of going on this tangent about like, oh, we're just taking a Medusa and we're adding another tail and boom, now we got something magical. And I think the cocktails were flowing and we just kind of let it rip from there. And then I do think like the first one we got, I think was kind of a lemon. So that probably didn't help, but I'm like, the more I fish like the Minnesota waters, particularly the metro stuff, I'm like, that bait would work, man. I mean, it hits a really good spot in the water column. It is different. Not everyone's just throwing it because of like what you said, it pulls hard. But I definitely want to give it some more run
Yeah.
time, and maybe who knows, it could end up as the our favorite bait of the year if it sticks a big fish or something.
It gets some big bites for us. So like last year on Clair, for whatever reason, our fish did not they were not keyed in on the bigger stuff, so I didn't do great on them last year. But they've been good for me. I for years like I want a smaller one. So like we definitely overshot the size because the goal was to try to mirror something like similar to like a regular Medusa size, or like a Mag Dog size, like, and we way overshot because
I mean,
it's
Yeah.
I know you're not trying to appease the Wisconsin audience by any means, but I do think if there was a slightly lighter and smaller quad dog, it would be a really badass bait for
oh
for
yeah,
us
yeah.
Wisconsinites.
Yeah.
Yes, that has been. I have, or I think I have one left. I have three of the regular quad dog prototypes from like 2 years ago. That yeah, I really wanted to see them come in production, but with the sale and everything else with the companies, that all went by the wayside. I actually couldn't figure out why the heck he wouldn't pursue it, and then it turns out that he was working on selling the company, so that all made sense then. But yeah, maybe that'll come at some point in the future with the new owner Paul, but obviously he's got a lot to figure out in the meantime before we start adding any new baits. But yeah, I agree, that would be an
True.
awesome bait.
Any other concoctions that you've either come up with in the past or new things on your mind that maybe you'd want to try to prototype or put into practice?
Yeah, I mean, there's always like things rattling around up there. It's like I mean, last year our fish on Claire really got into swim baits more than normal towards the end of summer. Like we had really good swim bait bites, and I'm like where they were like very significantly better than your traditional rubber baits. Which
Hmm,
normally, I mean, our fish, I mean, all muskies will eat paddle tails, but normally when they're eating paddle tails, they'll also eat a dog or a deusa. And we had a lot of times this last year where that wasn't the case, which is kind of new for us. So like I've been screwing around with more paddle tail stuff. I definitely think there's some room for growth in that market. Um, just because of the way that the unique nature of the paddle tails, especially with the hardness of the rubbers is a big thing that I've noticed is like the larger manufacturers don't want to use super hard rubber, but hard rubber for paddle tails gives them a lot more wobble in the water. But any of your major producers, they don't, the way their pumps are designed for their plastisol, they can't normally the plastic won't actually go through their piping, which is the thing, which is why a lot of the baits that we use a lot are all hand poured, like garage style baits. But
sure.
yeah, well, there's definitely some stuff in that area that I've been experimenting with a couple buddies and things that I think there is some room for some new baits there.
Would you want just like a typical, like almost kind of like a swimming dog profile with just a harder body is kind of is that what I'm picking up, or
I
are
yeah,
you looking
just
at?
I mean the big thing is I want the whole body to rotate to shimmy like a crankbait, which some of them will do more than others,
Wait,
but like I really want them, I want them to rock back and forth, you
yeah,
know.
like roll.
Yeah, like roll and not roll all the way over, but about as much roll as you can really get as you can give me. And there's a handful of baits that do it, and like I said, there's more and more coming out and things. But yeah, I definitely think there's some more. There's a couple that we're tinkering around with in that arena. Um,
It's cool.
and then as far as your pull pause rubber, I mean, I don't have anything in the works at the moment, but I mean, there's always something around the corner.
Well, and that's kind of like, we the stuff we said about the quad dog was like 100% joking. We were just being dumb because, we were
I
talking about it. It's like it's so hard to come up with something new these days. It's like there's really only so many different ways you can make a rubber bait, look. And it's like the bulldog, you have your single tail, you got your two tail bulldogs, you got your Medusas, and then you got your quad dogs. It's like, okay, well, like there's only so many tails we can put on these things, you know what I mean? Like,
Can we do five?
yeah. Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like, I mean, it's been like we haven't seen this now in a little bit on Claire, but like you're always thinking like, what's the next bait that's going to make them dumb again?
Right.
I mean,
We've talked about that a lot.
yeah, I mean, we've been a while now, so I mean, like obviously, like the quad dog and some of the other baits that have come out recently, like they're good and they're good baits, but they're not unique enough where all of a sudden it's like, okay, this thing is getting annihilated, and like it is
Yeah.
producing at a crazy high level compared to everything else in the market. Like we haven't had one of those in a while, and
I mean,
that's a
No.
big thing that everyone's trying to come up with.
that's true. And I mean, rubber is rubber. Like I'm bringing us up again, but like cadence is a big thing. Like sometimes it definitely could be the rubber bait, but most of the time, I guess I would say, in my opinion, it's probably the cadence is what's getting the bite. You know,
100%.
like you could have somebody catch one on that lure, and you're like, okay, let's give that lure to this other person, and because that lure obviously caught, and then that person doesn't, and the one who switched lures and put a new rubber bait on, totally different, they catch again. You know, it was probably cadence. So that might be tough. But my question to you, do you, one, do you throw anything other than rubber? But if you throw like bucktails, for example, I feel like that could maybe be something where, because that's all full just sound and vibration, and that's going to be totally different from every single type of blade. Do you guys incorporate that out there? Have you seen certain blades just explode for a bit, or is it just kind of even tough to see that out there?
No, it's like our we definitely throw some blades. Not a lot though. But like I mean our fish see so many bucktails. I mean every big troll, every 31-foot Tierra that's out there trolling has a crap ton of bucktails on their 14 rods. From small to big and everything in between. So they've all been caught a ton on blades. And the trollers, I mean, they have a huge advantage with their blades because they can deploy them from 6 inches under the surface down to, basically the bottom. Because like they
Right.
weight them, which is like as a caster, you can't do. Like you can't get a bucktail down 8 foot as a caster. Um, so like yes, there is times where the bucktail bite's good, but in general, it seems like it's getting worse and worse. So like coming out of COVID, when we had basically a year and a half or fishing season and a half where we couldn't target those fish in Canada. As soon as it opened, the blade bite was really good because they were all really dumb. And when you get dumb muskies, the best thing to put in front of them is bucktails. They hook up well, they cover lots of water. Um, but then ever since then, it seems like that bite's really, petered out. And maybe like you said, maybe it's because we don't have a new blade type that really fires them up again. Like the Marvins and some of the other ones, the 910s. Like those were all really, really good when they came out. I mean, not like the Cowgirl good when it first came out, but like they were still very productive. And now it doesn't seem like we have anything that's really, you know, really making the bucktails that productive at the moment. So I would say last year we probably got 90% of our fish on either dogs, deuces, or swim baits.
Interesting. Well, not to totally switch gears here, but gonna totally switch gears. And I just remember this, and I wanted to make sure I asked you. And I know we're probably getting close to being wrapping up here. You've been really generous with your time. So the one thing I wanted to talk to you about. So Michigan obviously has a year-round season. In Wisconsin, some new regs came out for northern Wisconsin. Where now, we're able to start. People in northern Wisconsin are able to start fishing for muskies come this next weekend. Something interesting I heard is that you guys on St. Clair have kind of just said, no, our muskie season starts, at a certain time. Is that true? And then two is how did you guys kind of band together, or what was the thought process behind that to start your guys' muskie guiding season in June?
Yeah, so the DNR decided back in 2015 or 16 that they wanted to do a year-round catch and release season because Michigan wants to be the first state without closed seasons, which is its own set of issues. But so we as a group, the Muskie Club, Muskies Inc., and the Guide Association, we all were very much opposed to this. We are a fully natural reproduction fishery. We have no stocking, never been stocked. In fact, they take fish out of our lake to stock other places, for the whole state. And we feel very strongly that we want to see the fish spawn in peace without being harassed, so that way we can perpetuate the fishery. So we fought the DNR tooth and nail. We took a vote of the Guide Association. We voted unanimously that we didn't want to see it, and you know, we're in the best position to make money from it if we wanted to. So when you get 70 guides that all are in a good position to extend their season and make money on it, that all vote no, it really should wake you up, because guides would normally do anything for money. So like, and we fought it tooth and nail, and the DNR said, you know what, we don't care. We're doing it anyway. So when it happened, we were very disappointed in their decision to go forward with it. But what we basically did instead was just say, all right, I don't ethically think it's right to fish it, to target our fish around the spawn. So like I'm just not doing it, and everybody's kind of gotten on that same train. So now like our possession season is still the same. So all we did was add a catch and release season. So like when the possession season opens is what we consider to be our season, even though we're not technically possessing fish for longer than is necessary to take a picture. So
Well, that makes sense. And we're kind of over in Wisconsin. We've been dealing with different nature, like Max brought up. We got the new opener. They started the entire state of Wisconsin except for Green Bay, Great Lakes. Will now open on May 2nd, or the first Saturday in May. What we called our game fish opener, which is just
yep.
walleye, pike, and whatever. But the clear difference is they extended the season, which, like you said, yeah, normally a guide would be like, yeah, we'd be all over that. But they extended it to the region of the state that is pretty much like yours, kind of. It's a lot of natural reproduction. We have to rely on it. The natural reproduction isn't exactly getting better with all the homes and just the spawning habitat will start to go away a little bit, and then they just extended it, and it all didn't really make a lot of sense, and they extended it to a harvest season, and they specifically said like on the DNR website, like muskie harvest season, May 2nd opener. Like it didn't, nothing really looked very good. The optics weren't great as much
Yeah.
as like the principle behind it. So we also, for the most part, and I hope all guides and whatnot north of that Highway 10, they called it, for the
Yeah.
northern half, will kind of follow that, which is kind of odd. We've actually argued with some, not argued, but we've talked about it where that Highway 10 cutoff is kind of odd because that is a lot warmer close to that Highway 10. Like they could make that line almost even further up. I mean, if you drive in Wisconsin like the winter, you could keep driving north on like Highway 51 or whatever, and it's like Highway 64 or so up there. All of a sudden, it's just like boom, snow, really cold, much different climate. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I think I'm glad Max brought that up. I think that's pretty cool that you guys are doing that, because you are the guides, you are the ones that are, out there on the resource every day, and you're, very, very willing, and everyone's willing to protect that resource, because that if you guys do screw it up, it's not good also for your business further on. So
How do
that
you
makes,
when new guys come into the fold, like new guides, are you like, all right, hey
hey.
buddy, how does that
Well,
work? Because it's no log. Like they could go out there and
it's never, I mean, none of this has ever really been discussed. Like there's been no group chat, no anything. Like we just, I mean, there's been, social medias, there's been some, um, I don't know, how do I put this? Like, yeah, there's definitely been some shaming, not by me, but in general from the fishing community, around a few people that maybe have targeted them. But and it just makes sense. Like, don't harass the fish around the spawn. Muskies are already such fickle spawners to begin with. Um, and honestly, if you look at our catch reports, according to the DNR, they'll be the first to tell you that our catch rates are down very significantly in the last 14 years since they've done this, but they won't admit that that has anything to do with anything. So they are just on their own train. But there is a very large disconnect between the DNR and fishermen.
That's a bummer. That must be fairly fairly universal, and that's kind of sad to hear a little
Hmm.
bit.
Yep.
They I know I understand that they got to use science and this and that and all that stuff, but they probably should listen to the people that are actually on the resource every freaking day of the year
They don't
and
ask
doing it.
us for a doggone thing.
Did they
Uh,
give you guys any sort of like when they made that decision to go year round catch and release? Did they give you guys any sort of like a bullet point reason as to why that decision was made? Do you remember that back then, or was it just, hey, we're doing this because we want to be the like?
No, I mean, so I mean, I was the one that led the charge against it, really. So like I presented like all for the on behalf of the Guide Association and Muskies Inc. and our Michigan Ontario Muskie Club. I mean, the DNR, there's a couple different reasons. So the big thing was they thought it could raise revenue for them, and they thought that they all are about the DNR is very focused on angler opportunity these days because they want more people fishing. So they think they can increase opportunity, then they're all in. Like you when you go to any of their meetings, like I mean, I sit on two of their committees and boards. Like you hear more about opportunity than you hear about conservation, which shocked me. Um, but they didn't think it would have any negative impact because muskies are not nesters. So they said like a spray and pray style spawner like a muskie wouldn't be affected by it at all, which I don't think is accurate whatsoever. Um, but then, I mean, they thought it, would give people a chance to get out more and to fish more, which was their main reason. And the other thing was that the conservation officers actually, this is probably the only point that has merit, in my opinion, is the conservation officers wanted it because they said that the out of season fishing for muskies is basically an unwinnable ticket for them because anybody just says they're pike fishing.
Mhm.
I argued that if you look at the actual national statistics, it's I don't remember them off the top of my head, but it's 90 some percent of car thefts in this country are unsolved. So just because it's hard to solve them doesn't mean we should legalize car theft. That was my exact example to them. Um,
Pretty good analogy.
and the vast majority of people, if you make that regulation, they will follow it. It will only be a few people that are going to pike fish, but that in general, you keep the good 90 some percent of people off of the fish. It does that much for the fishery. But that was a point that they pushed heavily too, which yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you have a sense that it will ever be reverted back, or is it just so far gone at this point where it's
We
not?
mentioned it to the DNR recently in a club meeting that they came and we're trying to get some regulations done as well. We're trying to up the size limit on St. Clair and the because we only have a 42-inch size limit and the
what?
DNR the DN yeah you would think that you would not believe how much pushback we're getting. They have no interest in it whatsoever. But we did mention that we'd love to see that reversed as far as the catch and release season goes, and I mean, wasn't impolite, but they basically laughed us out of the room on that one.
I I don't know if I have no words.
Yeah, I don't. I really would hate to end this
There's
interview on a down note. So
right. Because unfortunately, like I feel like just our pod the last this whole freaking year ever since our news dropped, of the early opener in late January, we've just talked about it so much and it's just been kind of exhausting, but at the same time, like it's still good to, I don't know if this is the right word, but just raise awareness, I guess, for more people to hear. I feel like it is good.
No, and like I mean, obviously, if you're a muskie fisherman out there and you're listening to any of this, like I mean, there's a lot of places in Wisconsin that are stocked fisheries. Like if you're gonna target muskie, go to any of them, but leave your natural reproduction ones alone until after they spawn. I mean, I don't think necessarily that you're gonna have issues where like the fish are gonna get caught, they're gonna dump their eggs in the boat or whatever. But muskies are very, very fickle fish, and if you watch some of the tracking studies and things like that, if you harass them around their spawn, even if you don't catch them it's still like so many of those fish will end up not spawning. So many of those females go out to deep water and reabsorb their eggs. Like they just, I mean, they're very picky women in that way. Like if they give
Yeah.
any reason not to spawn right, they won't do it. I mean, and they're already not great spawners, which is, I mean, that's part of being the top of the food chain is you don't reproduce the same way the bottom of the food chain does. So when you add in angler pressure, it's gonna do nothing good. Like best case scenario is it keeps it status quo. St. Clair is the prime example of that not being the case, in my opinion, because our fishery has declined in the Michigan side since this. I don't whether the DNR would argue that's not why, but I mean, there's zero doubt that our fishery on the Michigan side is significantly down from what it was over a decade ago when this went into effect. So like we can all argue about why that is, but I mean, in my opinion, that's been a factor. So I think most muskie guys you're going to see, and
Yeah.
I hope that you don't see guides doing it, but like I think in general, the majority of your muskie, guides and, talking heads, so to speak, are all going to urge you to not target them until after, the spawning period is over.
I'll be really curious to see how it goes this year. I mean, obviously, it's the first time it's been this way for a very long time in our neck of the woods. So yeah, we'll just kind of see how it goes. I hope it's not the same results of what you're saying. I mean, I think a lot of people did bring up Michigan when, this rule came into effect, and using Michigan is kind of an example of like, hey, Michigan fishing hasn't gone downhill. And now you're having somebody, on here who's saying like, no, there is, a little bit of a coinciding factor here on the timeline. So
Oh, I mean, Michigan DNR makes the guides track our catch rates, and according to Michigan DNR numbers, like their own numbers, they will say that our catch rates in the last 15 years are down by like 70 some percent, and those are
70? That's,
70,
yeah,
70 like
that's a
eight.
significant number.
No, I mean, that's their numbers. So like, I mean, yeah, they cannot say that this has not had an effect on our fishery. They could argue that's not the reason, but.
Shares the data.
Yeah, I mean, I've got all the data. Like they've said, I mean, we've gone back because we've been using this data as well to try to get the size limit increased because a 42-inch size limit on a lake like St. Clair is insanity. But
right.
um, but they don't think that has anything to do with anything either. So, I mean, I can't even get them to agree that raising the size limit has no chance of hurting the fishery. Like we can't even find that kind of common ground, which is like, well, even if not, even if fish aren't being kept, it still won't hurt anything to go to a 50-inch size limit.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the day. Yeah. Well, anyways, so let's end on a good note.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You've caught a lot of big fish in your time. I want to hear about, give us the top two biggest fish that have graced your boat.
Okay. So like good stories, I guess. So my first 55 incher was a pretty crazy story. I, yeah,
So you caught multiple.
yeah, I've got I think 10 or 11 or 12, I don't know, but I'm on to a big fish water. So
I know,
but
I
but
know.
I had
Yeah.
at one point I think I had 8 or 9 that I netted in my boat and I never caught one. So like it was starting to become a pretty big joke that I'm either a really good guide or a really bad fisherman because I put a lot of people on it, but I can't get one myself. Um, so then it was back like 2013 or something like that. We were out and it was a really windy day. We were out in August, and I had this fish up in a figure eight. We were in probably 3 foot waves, and I was working. I knew it was a big fish. Thank goodness I didn't quite realize how big it was. I thought it was like a 50-50. I thought it was like a 51 or two. I didn't realize it was a 55 and a quarter. But I took her around probably 12, 15 times. Uh, just kind and she was getting more and more excited, and we're in these huge waves. And I finally got her where I got her kind of starting to flare. And I take it was upon a pounder. I take the pounder up in the top of the turn and just and hang it on the outside turn there. And I watch her gills flare. I watch the whole mouth of the fish open, and she lunges for it. And I literally watched her, clear as day, grab just the tail of the bulldog. Like she just missed it 6 inches to the left. And like my clients watch the whole thing and they're like, she's got it. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I watched her grab it. She has just the tails. Well, in the heat of the moment, I had free spooled it. So like I hit free spool. So like she's now swimming with the bait. My client's telling me she's got it. I'm like, no, I know she doesn't have a hook. She's swimming down with the pounder and she got the tail in her mouth, the pounder's on the outside of her head. And like right as she gets probably 8, 9 feet down, as I was losing track of her in the water, I watched the whole fish turn. So that way the bulldog was on the outside of her head on the far side. So I said, screw it, that's my cue. So I just take and rip a hook set down and left as hard as I can. Hooked her right in the side of the head, like in the side of the beak. And I still got the pounder. The tail is shredded, like looks like you took 10 knives through the whole thing. And that was my first ever 55 and a quarter.
Wow.
It's
Which
That
just
is
swimming around with your bait.
insane.
I just watched it swim down. I mean, actually, it's Brad Rue that taught me that. Like, just to free spool it on a, when they do that. And he did that once in my boat. He looked at me. He's like, "What do I do now?" I was like, "I don't know. I've never seen this before. I've never seen anyone do that." But yeah,
I've never heard of that.
this
Never
fish.
heard of that.
I just hit the free spool quick. I watched her swim down. I just got super lucky that she turned the way she did, and I was able to hook her anyway. But yeah, that was my first ever 55. So that was a
Oh
good
my
one.
God.
And then
That's a
and then
crazy
after
one.
that was like 8 years or so into my professional fishing career. I finally got a 55, and then it took me 6 days to get my second.
Good
You
week.
just you opened it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Floodgates.
Yep.
Oh,
So that was a really cool one. So
that's
That's pretty
awesome.
neat. Well, what about let's maybe, because I know you've caught a lot of big fish. What about your do you got like a favorite or a big one from say Minnesota or Wisconsin? I guess if it was guiding or traveling for the PMTT or something like that. Like something
uh,
that's kind of stuck with you.
yeah, I mean, so I had a lot of great memories from going to school in Wisconsin, and then also in my guiding days in Minnesota. Um, right. Probably one of my favorite Minnesota fishes wasn't from my guiding days, but we did the PMTT mega tournament on Leech. My partner Matt Quintano and I did, and it was the biggest dumpster fire of a tournament we've ever seen. The weather was god awful. It was windy and cold and nasty, and I broke my trolling motor on the first day of the tournament. Went without, did just floated around, and the second day I had more issues and this and that, and just like everything that could go wrong went wrong. We had a game plan. We couldn't fish it because I couldn't have a trolling motor in the beginning. And then that was it was a 3 day event. We had to qualify for the third day. You had to get a fish to qualify. Same the championship is now. And it was the second day. We didn't have a trolling motor wasn't working, so we were just drifting around this weed bed we'd caught fish before and pre-fishing. And there was probably like an hour and a half left in the tournament. And my partner and I, we were so thoroughly disgusted with the way that the whole thing had gone, um, that we were talking about it. Like we were planning on staying, even if we didn't catch a fish, and we didn't qualify for the third day. We were originally planning we're going to stay the night, probably have many adult cocktails, and then wake up and drive home from Leach because it's some after like 14 hours, whatever. But we were so disgusted with everything. We're just like, screw it. Like the minute this tournament's over, we're getting the hell out of here. Like I'm taking, nothing's working. The boat's, trolling motor's broken. We're drifting around like lunatics, whatever. And we're literally planning our exit of like how fast we can leave this lake and get home. And right in the midst of our planning session, a 53-incher comes up on a figure eight, one turn, Matt smokes it, and we had to figure out how to fish. We were fishing the next day.
Like, damn it.
Like I guess
But also
hey,
the hell yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, it was a gigantic 53. It was big fish for the tournament. Got us a check. I mean,
Oh God. Talk about turning things around.
yeah, it
How'd
was
you
like
how'd you fish that last day then?
I managed
Hungover.
to find somewhere that had what I needed to fix my trolling motor. So the third day we had a working trolling motor, everything was fine. We of course we didn't it didn't help us catch anything. I think I caught like 8 pike that day. Like I think I had 3 pike that were 38 plus, but no
Oh,
monkeys. Yeah. But yeah, but we got a check and all that. But it was literally in the midst of our planning session for how we're gonna leave this place as fast as possible when we caught that fish. And that's
Man.
my biggest tournament fish in a PMTT at least. So that was cool.
that's a big one.
Yeah, yeah.
Big
That's a
one.
great story. Oh, that's awesome. All right, well,
Right
Gus,
on.
I'm good. I don't have any more
Mm,
questions. Do you got any last ones for Spencer?
no, I don't know. We covered a lot. This was a lot of fun. Especially just talking about tournaments, the excitement there and
Got
covering a
me
wide
jacked up
variety
to fish
from
Eagle River now. That'll be the
yep.
only stop we'll do this year, but I'm excited.
I'm
I wish
very
I wish
pumped.
I had one. I wish I would coming up a lot sooner than I do, but I gotta wait till the end of July.
Oh,
Yeah. But no, I think that's it. We can put a bow on this one. Spencer, thank you so much for your time. Before we sign off here, I want to give somebody the people your info, to book a trip with you, socials, this and that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started out in the spring doing walleye in Detroit River. Then, our muskie season officially, in my opinion, opens in June, and goes through December. So, if you're looking to get a hold of me, it's Spencer's Angling Adventures is my guide service. Obviously, you can find me online, find me on social media, Spencer Berman, Spencer Berman Fish on Instagram, smoke signals, you name it. Just get a hold of me somehow, and hopefully we can get you in the boat at some point.
right on.
Absolutely. Book a trip. Well, sweet. Thanks for hopping on, Spencer.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
Thanks.